I'm sure that almost every UC Gundam fan is familiar with the very striking golden Hyakushiki. At the time of its rollout, it was a highly mobile and extremely high-performance mobile suit that could easily go against any of its contemporaries. But this machine was never meant to exist. It was actually a redesigned Delta Gundam, a machine that was meant to exist, but ironically never existed itself. But despite not existing, it does have quite a history behind it. It all started in an underground research facility on the far side of the moon. Work had been progressing smoothly on the Zeta project, and the simulation data for what would be Anaheim Electronics' first transformable mobile suit was now completed. Now it was time to put it to the test. The simulation began and everything was going well for the Delta Gundam. It took flight and rapidly approached the first two targets, two Hyzaks. The first one was shot down as soon as it entered the Delta's firing range, and the second one would soon follow. The pilot of the Delta pulled up, transformed it from Wave Rider to mobile suit mode, and immediately shot down the second one. While still in the air, the second wave of targets approached. Again, they were no match for the Delta and were picked off one by one. The only true enemy of the Delta Gundam was gravity. In mobile suit mode, it was slowly being pulled down, so the pilot had to eventually transform back into the Wave Rider mode to avoid falling into the ocean. And this is when it all came crashing down. Instead of transforming, an error message flashed on the screen, indicating that the Delta Gundam's movable frame had become distorted. As a result, the Delta crashed into the ocean and the simulation ended. The Gundam was a failure, and at that time, Anaheim didn't have the technology at their disposal to rectify its weak structural integrity. So instead, they turned it into the high-performance Hyakushiki and presented it to the AUG. And the initial impression of Asanosh and Quattro seemed rather meh. Quattro simply remarked that it was indeed a golden mobile suit, and Asanosh gave him a summary of the machine's history that made it sound like a second-rate reject. This then prompted Quattro to say that if he didn't want him to pilot it, he should just go ahead and say so. Now Asanosh's tone changed a bit. He said that the movable binders did give the Hyakushiki a lot of maneuverability, and that Quattro would definitely be able to draw out the Hyakushiki's true potential. And in worst case scenario, he could always fall back on one of the captured Gundam Mark IIs. And what followed is the story that we're all familiar with. Quattro, or maybe I should say Char, used the striking Hyakushiki to great success, and even at the end of the Grips War, it was still able to go head to head with the latest enemy machines. And not only did the Delta Gundam now finally exist in some successful form, but it even got a whole family. The success of the Hyakushiki led to the development of the Hyakushiki Kai, the Hyakushiki Kai ground combat version, the full armor Hyakushiki Kai, and the Hyakushiki mass production type. We now jump from the Grips and the first Neo-Zeon War to the events just before Char's rebellion, and we see Asanosh and Chan looking at the design plans of the Delta Plus, a unit that Asanosh described as a cleaned up version of the Hyakushiki's original transformable version. He then tells her that the Delta Plus was meant as a backup plan for in case payment of the Zeta Gundam fell through. But as we all know, there were no issues, and the Zeta Gundam was deployed by the AUG as one of their top machines. And just as the Hyakushiki, it would get its own family of variations. But back to Asanosh's story now. Despite the success of the Zeta Gundam, and despite the upgrades done to the machine, he sighed that nothing seemed to have been done with the Delta Plus. According to Chan, the official reason was that the machine was too difficult to handle, but she had a feeling that the true reason was to not let Londo Bell become too powerful. Whether this was done to prevent another Titans-esque situation, or simply because certain people in the Federation didn't want an organization comprised of many ex-AUG members to gain too much power, is entirely up to you. Still, Asanosh could understand not assigning the Delta Plus and instead sticking with mostly standard units. As fun as it is to tinker with high-performance units, standard machines make the life of a mechanic much easier, and it's a lot more budget friendly to boot. Chan then responded that things must have been pretty rough on the Argama with all of their experimental mobile suits. She then wondered how things would be with their economy Zeta Gundam, the Rigazi, a unit that, given the situation with the Delta Plus, they would have to push for themselves. Our story then concludes with a final simulation of the Delta Plus versus the Zeta Gundam. And thinking back at the performance of the Delta Plus during Gundam Unicorn, I can't help but wonder how things would have gone for Amuro had he flown the Delta Plus during the first half of Char's counterattack. But that's all for this episode of Gundam lore on the amazing Delta Gundam and the later Delta Plus. As for the latter, I know that the pilot kinda became a joke as the Unicorn series progressed, but don't let the pilot distract you from an otherwise amazing mobile suit. And the manga that this story appeared in, Gundam Unicorn Testament, was also quite the amazing thing. I really like the art style and the detail on both the mobile suits and the characters. I gotta say, this is one of the cutest representations of Chan that I've seen so far, and I totally approve of it. Then on the story side, things were pretty unique. Rather than seeing the story through the eyes of a human or some kind of narrator, the story is actually told by the Delta Gundam itself, and the same goes for all of the stories in this manga. So it's a really cool and different read. Unfortunately, because it is so unique, the other chapters don't really lend themselves to Gundam lore videos. So this'll be it for this amazing manga. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more similar content in the future. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope all of you watching have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.